All right. Peace. How y'all doing, man? Well, I guess this is the start of it. No mic, no stage, just a desire to connect with young people. My name is Prince. Some people call me Lord Prince. Some people call me LP. Some people call me Prince Bun. Back in the days, they used to call me Fun Bun too. All that is relevant. My honorable name at birth was Weldon Lindale Bun, and I'm doing my best to bring honor to that name. This is the beginning of a journey for what people like to classify as adjudicated youth. I've been in prison and caught up in the juvenile justice system more than I've actually been in society. And having those types of experiences given me a different type of insight on what the kids that are going through similar circumstances need. And I decided that I was going to, along with my brother Jamon, shout out to Jamon up at James River Correctional Center for even just having this type of vision about how I could potentially expand my reach when it comes to youth, because it gets kind of complicated when you're dealing with young people, because they have so many different guidelines that restrict you from being able to share the message that could potentially save their life. This channel this channel was created because of that, and this channel is going to be entitled, and it is entitled, Before You Do Something. That's the name of it. And it's a channel that I would hope could provide young people that are going through, their life situations, and they feel the need to reach out to someone before they make a decision that could deeply impact them. My last incarceration was for 25 consecutive years. I went in 93, and I didn't get free to that situation until 2018. Prior to that, I had been in for 2.5 years, and I had a little 6-month break in society, and I went back for 25, so they go 27 and a half. I had been to upstate twice, to Beaumont and Barrett Juvenile Correctional Center. I had been inside the city jails, the city farm, and I guess in a lot of ways I thought I had figured it out, but I hadn't figured anything out because I didn't know how to slow myself down. This October would represent 25 years I've been home. I mean, not 25, pardon me. 5 years I've been home. See, I'm thinking about the incarceration. Y'all got to forgive me. But I'll be home 5 years in October. And in that time, I've had the honor and the privilege to go back into the adult system, to speak with men who are still trapped in it, fighting for their freedom. I've had the privilege of going into the juvenile detention centers. I went to Newport News Detention Center. I've been to Richmond Detention Center and Rico Detention Center and James River. And I'm open for any other detention center that's going to allow me to bring this message. I went to Bon Air with the Jubilee Choir. Shout out to Ashley and all those good people over there. I'm tired, y'all. I'm tired, man. And I'm tired of the things that are continuously happening in our communities. And it seems like we done been desensitized when it comes to our kids, right? And I tell my youngins a lot of times when I be speaking with them, right, that for a lot of us, the adults, they have a whole laundry list of things that they feel are wrong with the children, They tell us that they gang banging. I get that. They tell us that they selling drugs. I get that. They tell us that they shooting, and I get that. They tell them they killing one another, and I get that. They telling them that they don't want to listen, and I get that. They tell me that in a lot of ways, some people just gave up hope on them. I don't get that. Right? And the reason why I don't get that is because I understand my journey to where I'm at right now and the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. If you would have asked me years ago what I thought that I would be in this position, just striving to be a voice for young people, I probably would have said no. Not that I don't care about young people or didn't care about young people. What it was is that my mind and my heart hadn't been developed to the needs of them. But once I started to further examine my own life and I looked at things I've been through and I told myself like, yo, Prince, you got to do something different. And this is what different looks like for me. I guess it's probably been maybe 3 weeks now. I had the honor and the privilege of going to James River Regional Detention Center out in Powhatan. And when I got there, Jamon hooked me up with this lady named Miss Laura Jones, who is one of the teachers there. And we just started brainstorming about like, yo, what are we gonna do to try to combat some of the issues that are affecting our kids, right? And it's one thing, y'all excuse me for a second. It's one thing to have people to come in there to talk to the kids, right? But it's something totally different to be able to go in there and to actually engage with the kids. I think that for me, I engage. Not to say that I make myself better, but there's nothing that the children that are in those situations can actually tell me about what they're going through that I don't already know. I know what it is to feel what it feels like to be inside of the cell. I know the depression that settles on you. I know the anxiety waiting for court dates. I know the fear of the environment, because when you're going into a place that you've never been before, the unexpected can kind of be terrifying to you if you want to be completely honest. And I'll tell you a funny story that I came to realize on my exodus out of prison, right? And I started asking guys this question in regards to coming into this strange environment. And I said to them, everybody in here knows what it feels like to be the new guy, right? Walking through with your property, you got to find out what cell you're going into, trying to see if you recognize a familiar face or whatever. And most of the time, people can identify with that because everyone knows that has been in that experience or had that experience what it feels like to be the new guy. But what happens is, after they get acclimated to the environment, some individuals tend to go out of their way to make the new guy feel more uncomfortable than they felt as they were going through the process themselves. So shout out to everybody that knows what it feels like to be the new guy, because that'll keep you humble and it'll keep you moving with compassion and empathy towards somebody that's going through the same thing. All right, and I want to lay this out right here now, y'all. Prince don't have the answers to everything that's going on out here. I'm not going to pretend like I got all the answers, but what I do have is a desire and a commitment to young people to give them first my ears, right? I got to give them my ears first. And the reason that I give them my ears first is because, they are not being heard. And just like I was telling you, the things that a lot of the elder people are saying about them, and I told you I get all that. But what I don't get is when you give me this laundry list of things that are going on in these children's lives, and then you don't tell me in the same breath that you've taken some time out to talk to them and to listen to them, to understand what's going on with them, causing them to make the decisions that they make. My children are brilliant. And let me just start with that. And I say they're brilliant because they understand what's going on with them. When I was going through my prison experience, if it wasn't for the knowledge of self, I wouldn't have made it through. But one person may say, well, what is the knowledge of self? Oh, you know your name, where you grew up, your family, circumstances, what school you went to. those are things that are relevant to an individual's personal growth. But when I'm talking about knowing yourself, I'm talking about knowing yourself intimately to the point where whatever has happened in your life, you have the courage and the voice to express that to the people, right? Like for me, some of the stuff that I went through as a kid, it took me years, months, and days before I found the courage to be able to talk about it. But what prevented me from doing it? One of the things was because of the fear of how somebody else was going to see me. I was more concerned with public perception in regards to my life as opposed to my own true healing. Now, healing is a process, but how can a person really heal from something that they've been through unless they can be honest with themselves over the fact that they've been through it? I was angry as a kid. I was rebellious. I held resentment towards my parents. I was fearful of becoming, right? You understand what I'm saying? I had a fear of becoming because in order to become, I had to let go of what I wanted to be in the sense of this distorted perception of myself as an individual. I had to overcome the fear of being myself. And that sounds kind of crazy when you think about it. I had to overcome the fear of being myself. Well, for a lot of years of my life, I was pretending to be something that I wasn't. My childhood, growing up, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to bash my parents because I'm not, but in my opinion, my mom and dad, they didn't need to be together because their relationship was toxic. And it was toxic to the point where I don't feel like they understood the components of communication. And whenever they found themselves in a difficult situation, they always resorted to violence to resolve it. So I thought that that was the way that you handled problems. I grew up as an only child, and that was difficult in itself because I didn't have any older siblings to help navigate me down the path that I was traveling through. So I made a lot of mistakes, all right? And then when I did get into trouble, I didn't really have anybody to blame. So my cousins, right? Shout out to all my first cousins. Shout out to all my family. Because my little cousin, Markel, was the one that actually created this page for me. And I want him to really be active in helping to develop it to what it can potentially be. But all my cousins were like, especially my girl cousins, they were like my sisters. And they are still like that because I always wanted a sister. So I got so many. Now, just to give you some context, on my mother's side, I think it was 22 of those, right? And they say when my grandmother passed, it was like 73 grandkids and 118 great-grandkids. Now, that's on my mom's side. And then on my dad's side, I think Aunt Annie Reen told me it was 12. It might have been 13 because one of my aunts that I never got a chance to meet died. I want to say 12. So I got a whole host of cousins, second cousins, and just family members in general. Family has probably been the most challenging thing that I've had to deal with since I've been home. Because you go through your prison experience and you crave the reunion between yourself and those that you had left. But what happens is your development within that prison environment doesn't equal to what the individuals that you left know about you. Only thing they have is their memories of what you used to do and what you used to be. In probably another hour, I'll be going to the Henrico Detention Centers to talk to my kids. I go in here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I actually teach them chess. And I partnered up with the Cultural Arts Center up in Glen Allen. Shout out to Jen, Sydney, Miss Kay, the president over there, and all the staff for the work that they do. And I got connected with them through a video of an art show that they actually did in the James River Detention Center that Jamon had actually sent me. And once I seen what they were doing, I was like, yo, I was going in there prior to that, and I'm still going. So I had to build this relationship to basically expand my reach. I guess maybe it's been about like 10 minutes ago. I just went to the Boys and Girls Club, Salvation Army over here in Richmond, to talk to Mr. Jones and a few of the staff. My cousin, she actually works over there, about, the clearance or the background check in regards to me coming to work with the kids. And, I got denied. All right, it's all good. I ain't tripping. And it's funny because as I was coming up the steps, I started thinking to myself how you have a change of heart about how you deal with life. Right? People change. Second chances, third chances. It doesn't matter to me what chance that you are on, because you hear a lot of times people like, well, you deserve a second chance, man. You deserve a chance as long as you're alive, because the moment that it clicks for you, it's going to be determined by you and your life circumstances. And it may not be on my clock, but for someone to say that it has to happen when they feel like it needs to is unfair to the individual that's going through what they're going through. I've known some addicts that have battled substance abuse issues who didn't get it right the first time, didn't get it right the second time. They relapse. And in these relapses, they constantly had to pick themselves up off the ground to figure out what they're going to do different. And then I heard stories of some who have woke up one morning, looked themselves in the mirror, and just say, this is it. And they were just completely done. Now, does that mean they didn't have any more temptations that came as a result of that? No, probably not. But so what? They picked themselves up and they said they wanted to do something different. The woman that was strung out on drugs, using her body to help feed her addiction, changes. How many chances did she get before she got it right? How she had to deal with the shame of, things that she was doing to feed her habit. So I'm not of the mindset that it got to be a first, second, third chance. I just know that people in general have the potential of becoming once they determine in their mind that they want to do something different. So my past on paper, right, prevents me from working with the varied demographics of children that I want to, because of the mistakes that I made as a child. Now, I want you to hear me. I want to work with children, and I'm going to work with children, right? But the mistakes that I made as a child can be the hindrance to me being able to do it. I asked my babies this, right? I said, how many of y'all know what it feels like to be counted out? Right? And most of them raised their hand, right? And then I started thinking, I said, what are the emotions that are associated with being counted out? What do you feel when somebody counts you out? Man, I'm depressed. I don't feel worthy. I feel anxiety. I feel not wanted. I feel like my life is over. And while those are some of the emotions that's associated with it, I just think that when someone counts you out, you have to shift your mindset to this. Yeah, they counted me out, but guess what? I counted me in, right? And had I believed the naysayers, right? Had I let their thoughts take root within my civilization, and when I say my civilization, I'm talking about my mindset, right? That's the first civilization for me. My mindset is my civilization. Because when I change my mindset, I start living as a civilized person. I step into my citizenship. That's the word, right? And I start looking at humanity through a whole new lens. I don't walk around with a prejudiced attitude or judgmental because this person doesn't come from my background, or this person may not have the financial resources that I might have, or vice versa, because there's always going to be somebody in a better position and a worse position than you. So if you gassed up about what you got, then you probably ain't got none. You feel me? Because at the end of the day, if you do possess the means to do the things that you want to do, and there's no desire to want to help people in their situation, shame on you. So judgment goes out the window, right? I want to take the time out to shout out my wife, Tijuana Bun, my baby. We've been talking about doing this for a minute, and we've been through a lot in regards to our personal relationship, our family relationship, and our relationship with our friends, right? And all of it has really culminated into a supreme understanding on my part of we have to get to the work to eliminate all that extra stuff that we found ourselves confronted with. My daughter, or our daughter, Tansy, she said, Dad, I'm glad you're going into this realm. She said, don't worry about all the recording. She said, just get up there and record and talk. So guess what I'm going to do? Yeah, I'm going to talk. You see? One of my babies told me, they say, Prince, you got to have a white backboard. That's what she said. So guess what? They were a white wall to start off. I ain't going to write on it, though, because the wife will kill me. But nevertheless, she said, you want to make it interactive, right? When I went there to James River with Mr. Blunt and talked to Miss Jones, we got 3 pages of conversations that our kids had said they would like to see on this channel. Now, this book right here, this journal, this is actually, and I should have started this earlier, but I got my babies signing their names in there, right? The ones that I'm meeting, because there's so many of them in there, so many. And it's sad. And I think that the most troubling part for me is when I see the female population increasing. They counted me out, but I counted myself in. I'm not going to believe the hype. I'm not going to allow myself to get caught up in someone else's perception of how they feel about me. I'm not going to try to create or utilize fear to try to get people to want to be a part of my life or to force them into situations that they may not want to be in. I told the kids when I go to the schools to speak, I said, listen, if my message resonates with you, right, then it's your message. And if it doesn't, then guess what? It ain't your message. So this message right here is a message of love. It's a message of hope. It's a message of inspiration. And it's a message rooted in the truth of my experiences. I can't give you nothing but who I am. And while I didn't value me at one point, I know the significance of myself. I understand the power of my voice, and I understand the magnetic of my character. And when I say the magnetic of my character, the ability to draw people, places, and things up. Call that a cipher. I'm not a religious person, right? I'm a cultural person. And in my culture, what we are taught and we are instructed to do is to teach wherever we go. And we only teach older people unless they have something to offer the youth. So if you done got so high on your high horse that you can't see down in the valley no more, then this message may not be for you. I'm talking to the ones that have been broke down, that are tired, that have been hurt, that are confused, that have been labeled, that have been incarcerated, that have been on addiction, that have been kicked out their homes. They feeling like no one wants them. I'm speaking to us, those who've been sexually abused, because I've suffered that too. I'm speaking to us. And I'm speaking to us with the confidence to let you know there's nothing wrong with you, right? It's only what happened to you. Remember that.